Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, July 12th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Ball State game in 55 days, the game against Michigan in 139 days. Our show today is presented by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus or scan that convenient QR code on your screen to check out the menu and make a reservation today. All right, today we're talking to Michael Pettit. He's one of our scheme insiders at BuckeyeInsiders.com. We have gotten a lot of feedback over the years about how these are shows you guys absolutely love. You guys love talking X's and O's with our scheme gurus. Makes you a smarter football fan, as I always like to say on these shows. So we have not one but two of them, and Michael is one of them who is here with me today. And the last time we had you on the show, we were talking about cover two variations. This time, I want to talk about some other terms, and these are terms that you'll hear us talk about a bunch on these shows, but I don't know that we've ever really sat down and just sort of defined them. Do a little bit of maybe football 101 kind of show here for you. We're going to be talking about creepers and sim pressure. Those are terms that I think people have probably heard before, but Michael, it feels like these are things that I always hear you talk about as being really good ways to potentially cause some confusion, but want to explain sort of what they are and how they're a little bit different.
Yeah, so creepers and sim pressures, what they both have in common is they are defensive play calls where you are rushing one of your back seven defenders, so a linebacker, safety, even a corner. But in exchange for that, you're dropping a defensive lineman, generally a defensive end, into coverage. So even though you're bringing a back seven player on a rush, you're still technically only rushing four and getting seven back into coverage.
Now, I know if you are someone who has played EA Sports, the college football game, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds like a zone blitz. So are these kind of just different variations of a zone blitz? Because that's how it's sort of generally, I think, was in those old games was sort of labeled. Are these sort of different flavors of zone blitz? How does that all sort of fit together?
So when I think of the term blitz or pressure, to me, that means five or more rushing the quarterback. Creepers and simulated pressures, you're only rushing four. And furthermore, with creepers and simulated pressures, you can pair them with essentially any type of coverage. You can even pair them with man coverage. I'm going to show an option or an example of each today. One creeper, one simulated pressure. They both happen to be cover three, but you can pair them with essentially any type of coverage.
All right, well then let's start with the creeper. What does that look like? And I mean, you said it's kind of the way you described it. It sounds like they're kind of the same. So what sets a creeper apart?
Okay, so first with creepers, what makes a creeper versus a simulated pressure is when you're running a creeper, you're in your base defensive set. So you're in your 4-down alignment or whatever. And you don't have all these linebackers walked up to the line of scrimmage, or you're not really trying to give any confusing looks pre-snap. And once the ball is snapped is when you have a back seven player. In this case here, you'll see it's the Mike linebacker. To get this clip, I had to go back to last season because Matt Patricia doesn't run very many creepers. Jim Knowles did not run very many either, but certainly more than Patricia. So this is actually a clip from Ohio State's national championship game against Notre Dame at the end of the 2024 season. And so if you look at it, they're in a base defensive alignment to start. And Cody Simon, the linebacker here, is going to come on a blitz through the A gap, but they're in base alignment. And with Cody Simon coming on that blitz, JT Tuimoloau is actually dropping out to the flat. So it's still only a four-man pressure. And they are running cover three behind, which is, three deep defenders and four underneath zone defenders. So this is an example of a creeper. But like I said, you can run a creeper with any type of coverage. It doesn't have to be cover three. This is just the example we're looking at for this video.
All right, so that's a creeper. So what makes a sim pressure different from a creeper?
So a sim pressure, which is short for simulated pressure, what makes it different is that you have five or more guys walked up on the line of scrimmage. So in this clip here, again, it's a cover three simulated pressure, but you'll notice that Ohio State has 5 men up on the line of scrimmage because the linebacker, Arvell Reese, is walked up prior to the start of the snap. And once the ball is snapped, you've got the nickel, Jermaine Matthews, coming on an edge blitz from the field. But Arvell Reese, the walked up linebacker, is going to drop back into coverage. And so is Kenyatta Jackson, the edge player, down to the boundary there. So really, you could run this as either a creeper or a simulated pressure. This could easily just turn into a creeper if Arvell Reese was not walked up to the line of scrimmage, if he was at his normal, linebacker depth and it was base alignment. So again, these things are very, very similar, and sometimes the difference can be very minuscule. But yeah, essentially the difference is that on a simulated pressure, you've got 5 or more guys walked up to the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped.
So this sounds like a really good way to create pressure, but also create, and really by doing it by creating confusion, where you're not with a blitz. If you're bringing the old Todd Grantham double A gap blitz, like, yeah, that's great, you're bringing lots of pressure, but you're leaving yourself open sort of on the back end. This seems like you're sort of equating numbers in a way, so you're not necessarily leaving yourself vulnerable on the back end in quite the same way that you might be just numbers wise. So what are the reasons that people don't just do this on every play? I assume there are some potential downsides here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what you said is exactly right. The big upside with creepers or simulated pressures is you create confusion, you change the picture post snap, but you're still only rushing 4 and you still have your 7 back in coverage. So in a way, it's kind of like, cautious aggression or controlled aggression. Now, the downsides with running these are that when you're dropping defensive linemen into coverage, naturally they're not going to be as good and as comfortable playing in space and playing as coverage as if you're blitzing the nickel. You're blitzing the nickel, you're dropping the defensive end in the coverage. Well, the nickel is probably not as good at rushing the passer as the defensive end, and the defensive end is probably not as comfortable playing in coverage and space as the nickel. So yeah, that essentially is what I would say is the biggest downside. And, on top of that, it's also the ball skills aspect. Defensive linemen don't spend a lot of time in practice catching passes, working on their hands. So yeah, there's definitely a downside to it.
So there you go. If you enjoyed that video, man, oh man, would you enjoy BuckeyeInsiders.com? Because one thing that we are going to try and do there a little bit more is to take some of these videos and also turn them into written content. So you want to read about it, you can get little video clips in there. You can watch them over and over and over again, have it explained to you in writing as well. But even better than that, you can go on the Insiders board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, and you can talk to our scheme insiders there. We actually have a thread pinned right at the top of the board right now, the X's and O's thread. And you can ask Mike, you have questions about this? Ask Michael, go right to the source. You have questions for Ross? Ask Ross, go right to the source. Talk about these shows. You can talk about anything else. We'll probably do some scheme chats at some point, like an all-day scheme chat kind of thing. You can get information right from the source. You'll say, well, we want to make you a smarter football fan. These shows are part of that, but the board, the website, that is all part of that. That is our promise to you. We will make you a smarter football fan at BuckeyeInsiders.com. And thanks again to our friends at Jeff Ruby's Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.